We are here because we have a very special guest. This is Faces Presents, and we have a music producer. His name is Carlos de la Garza. So let's give him a Castle Our Spirit by shaking our hands, right? Yay! Thank you for coming and for just sharing your experiences and talking with us about everything that you do that makes you so amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Do have some student interviewers. I'm going to go ahead and turn it to you guys.
Hi, I'm Eloise, a 7th grader at Castelar. Before we begin, acknowledge the Tongva people, who were the original inhabitants of the land where Los Angeles and our school Castelar is located. We honor the Tongva and all indigenous people past, present, and future. We also honor the contributions of Black people and recognize that our country was built upon the labor of enslaved people. It's Women's History Month, and we acknowledge the contributions of women to all areas of American life, including science, politics, the arts, and civil rights. We encourage all of you to continue learning about underrepresented people groups in our country and world. Welcome to our latest Faces Presents program, where we try to introduce you to people who are doing inspiring things in their lives and careers. Today we bring you my Uncle Carlos. But before we begin, we have a few words from Ms. Mai, the president of Faces, Friends and Alumni of Castelar School.
Hi, Castelar. How are you? Hola, ni hao, xin chào quý vị. Faces is so happy that we've been able to be very helpful with our school in spite of the pandemic. And our number one goal is still ETM. We are so happy to be able to have Mr. B with us. Thank you, Principal Liu, for continuing your support of ETM. So we still do need to fundraise, and it's a lot harder because we don't get to have our events, our movie nights, Say Music in Chinatown concerts, but you can still donate online. You go to facescastelar.org. We have a page there. Thank you for the successful food raising. And also, we do have coming up in our next program a wonderful author and an actor and an online talent show. So stay tuned for that.
Do you like to stream music, play records, ever wonder how your favorite songs get made? This evening, we will meet Grammy-winning music producer Carlos de la Garza, who has worked with artists including Paramore, Tegan and Sara, Ziggy Marley, Best Coast, and the Linda Lindas. He will talk about engineering, recording, producing, mixing, and more. So let's watch a short video and listen to some music.
If the world's on fire, if the oceans rise, our love will survive. Where should I go, Daddy? What should I say? Where should I go? Is it okay with you? I'm good, boy, don't think about yesterday, 'cause I feel
And now I would like to introduce today's guest host, Castelar's music teacher, Mr. B.
Hey, everybody. Good to see everyone and have everyone. In today's conversation, we'll be joined by 4 student interviewers. From the 5th grade, we have Amber Yang. You can wave and say hi, Amber. We have Christian Castro. And we have Selena. And we have Jemmy Leth. Awesome. If you have any questions, friends that are watching, put them in the chat box and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please put your name and your grade so we know who you are and what grade you're in. Hey, Carlos, are you ready?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Selena, are you ready for with your first question?
Yep. Where did you
Fire away.
grow up and go to school?
I grew up in Cerritos, California, which is on the southernmost border of LA County. I went to school at the local public high schools, Kennedy Elementary, for my K through 6th grade, Fay Ross Junior High School for 7th and 8th grade, and Cerritos High School for my entire high school. And then I went to UCLA for college. At the time I was growing up, Cerritos, California was actually the most ethnically diverse city in the entire country, which is a fun fact, as well as having the biggest auto square in the entire world. So yeah, that was my town. Growing up, I had a lot of musical influences. Probably the earliest one I could remember was my sister and my grandmother, who both played the piano. And I had a neighbor who also played piano, and her older brother played trombone. And it's just something that always interested me. And I found myself, you know, slowly but surely asking for piano lessons at an early age. I think I was like in 5th or 6th grade when I started playing piano. And then a few years after that, asking for a drum set for Christmas from my parents, and then joining a band or forming a band with some friends down the street and in my friend group. And then it was all downhill from there. Here I am. My progression was like playing in bands while going to school, and then eventually after I graduated from college, joining a band full time as my career, and then after that, getting into production and music.
How did you get started in music, and why did you choose to become a producer?
I remember like going to a music store there was a music store in my hometown. It was actually in Lakewood in a mall, inside the mall, and they had a bunch of instruments in there. It's the first time I saw a drum set and cymbals and guitars and keyboards. This was the early 80s, and yeah, like as a young child, you know, seeing MTV, which was really popular at the time, and seeing my favorite musicians play instruments and just wanting to figure out how they were doing all that stuff just really intrigued me. And it made me want to try to crack some of those codes of like, how do you play the guitar? How do you play the drums? How do you record the music, you know? So it started pretty early for me and became a full-blown passion probably by the time I was in my later high school years.
Christian, are you ready with your question, your first question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What exactly does a music producer do?
That's a good question, Christian. So a music producer does kind of a lot of different things, and sometimes it's a combination of a bunch of different things. Sometimes it's helping an artist write a song. Sometimes the artist comes in with an idea and they need help finishing it. Sometimes it's an artist comes in with a song that's already done, but they need help recording it and making it sound good and making it sound appropriate for the style of music that it is. For example, you were wanting to do reggae music, maybe you wouldn't want to put a string section on it, you know? So sometimes artists need help really discovering the vision for their music, and they seek out the help of collaborators to help kind of take the music and make it something extra, otherworldly. And that's where I come in.
My second question is, what instruments do you play, and what is your favorite instrument?
I play the piano, keyboards, the drums. I play guitar. I play bass guitar, and I play most of the basic percussion instruments: tambourine, shaker, congas, etc. And you know, I don't know that I have a favorite. It used to be the drums. You know, the drums were like kind of my first love and the thing that I was able to make a career out of initially, which is really hard to do in music. But after a certain amount of time, I just wanted to kind of spread my wings and explore other instruments and just see how I could incorporate it all into making music as opposed to like one specific part of music. So in a production, I tend to use all the instruments pretty equally.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's worth noting that
That's a
now,
lot of instruments.
and now with the advent of computers being as flexible as they are, there's so many instruments inside the computer as well. You can program a string arrangement, or you
Yeah.
can program horns, or program a beat, or there's what we call virtual instruments, which is you can have a grand piano sound inside the computer. So really all you need these days is like a MIDI controller, and you can do a lot with just that.
My third question is, what type of music do you usually make?
I specifically do like alternative rock, indie rock, and pop music. Although I have worked in reggae before with Ziggy Marley. Those are the things that I mainly do. And I mean, I'm open to working on other styles of music too, but the opportunity just hasn't presented itself yet. I mean, I'm kind of working with this artist, Cassidy Pope, mixing her record, and she is kind of a country artist. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of that. She won the Voice competition show on NBC like 5 years ago or so. Occasionally I'll do like a little bit of something else, but by and large, I kind of stay focused within this alternative rock genre.
That's awesome. My last question is, what's it like to win a Grammy?
It's pretty awesome. The show itself is really fun, and there's tons of awesome performances. Everyone's dressed up, and it's pretty nerve-wracking if you're just sitting there hoping that you're going to win. If you don't, you cry.
It must have been a lot of sophisticated people.
Right, there were. I mean, it's cool. I mean, there's Chance the Rapper was like 3-4 seats down from me, and then the main show was amazing. It was like Adele opened it, and then Beyonce played, and Metallica played, and The Weeknd played, and Anderson .Paak played. It was awesome. It was just a really fun night, and it was made much more fun by actually winning one.
Very cool. Thank you, Christian.
Thanks, Christian.
Awesome.
Well, that's it.
Oh,
Thank you, Christian. As a person, Carlos, as a person who's worked on award-winning projects, do you think it matters to receive awards or not? Do they change anything?
it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't really change my focus or my passion for the music in any way. It does help financially speaking. Once you win one, you are then in kind of an upper echelon of music creators, and usually the price you can command for your work is kind of like bumped up a bit. That's for everyone. That's for performers, producers, mixers, engineers, anyone who wins one. It kind of it does elevate the status a little bit. So it's funny. It didn't change the way I approach production at all. I still do it the same way now that I did before I won a Grammy, but it's weird. It's almost like a lot of what it's perception is a big part of how they listen to music or even watch movies. Anyone who has the phrase Oscar-winning actress, anyone is like, oh, interesting. It's almost like a slightly elevated status for some reason. But yeah, but it really hasn't changed. Hasn't really changed my approach to making music at all.
Cool. Selena, are you ready with your first question?
Yep. Where do you get your inspiration?
That's a good question. I'm lucky that I work with a lot of really great artists, and they bring to the table a lot of really cool influences or ideas. Whenever we're making a song, an artist will always reference like another song that's kind of influenced them. And so we go on Spotify and we listen to that. And sometimes we listen to a handful of songs or even 10 songs while we're making a song, just to kind of hear the way it was done then. And then sometimes you hear that song and it's not the way you remember it, or it'll spark another idea that you didn't realize, was inherent in the song. So yeah, artists oftentimes will bring to the table a lot of eclectic influences and other things to kind of influence my taste. I'm like anybody else. I search out and try to discover new music through blogs and friends and family and other media outlets like movies or TV shows, when you hear a cool song, you're like, "Ooh, what is that?" And you just kind of do some research and figure out who that artist is. But personally, I find inspiration in all kinds of places, not music related even. Like sometimes it's nice to just get out and do something outside. Like my family went riding our bikes along the beach like a few weeks ago, and it was so nice to just get out and change the scenery, something to kind of like reset and reflect, and sometimes getting, because I work every single day, like 7 days a week for the most part. So I'm in music all the time. So sometimes a little reset really helps to refocus and in its own way influence me.
That's really cool. And is there anyone who has helped you when you were down?
Yeah, you know what? One thing I would say is sometimes disappointment is part of making music. I think disappointment is a part of a lot of the arts, and probably not just the arts. I mean, it's disappointment is a part of life, right? I think all of us maybe hope we got a better grade on a test, or we were up for a promotion at a job and we didn't get it, or we tried out or auditioned for something and we didn't get it, and that's always a little disappointing, right? But we persevere, we go on, we try to learn from it, and and in some ways, for me, it fuels me to drive to do better the next time. So while it is disappointing, you can't let those kind of minor bumps along the road take you off your course.
That's cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool. Amber, are you ready with your questions?
Yes.
Awesome.
Do you sing in the shower? No.
It's a good question.
He does.
I do. And I sing.
And
really-
usually not after the words.
Yeah, I love to sing in the shower. I love to whistle in the shower. Yeah, shower has really great acoustics, and it's very inspiring. You're so relaxed, and you feel like you're alone. Yeah. Do you sing in the shower?
Yes.
Nice. No, but seriously, some of my best ideas have come while I'm in the shower. If I'm just waking up and I'm hopping in the shower, getting ready for work, like a really inspirational lyric will just pop into my head, or an idea for a song. It happens all the time.
Very cool. Amber, you got your next question?
Yeah. Can you share some advice for writing a song?
Some advice?
Some advice for writing a song.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so usually when we're writing a song, one of the first things we think of is an idea or a concept. Like, what do we want the song to be about? It could be about anything, and your mood will kind of sometimes inform a song. I worked with an artist recently who had undergone a bad breakup with her boyfriend, and she was really sad. And so all of the songs were kind of like, were kind of talking about that whole situation. And so, yeah, sometimes you use that as inspiration to try to like fuel an idea for a song, and once you have kind of an idea in place or a concept, you kind of will build the song around that idea. If it was a really sad song, it probably wouldn't be like a really fast, upbeat major chord song. It'd probably be something in a minor key that's maybe a little bit, maybe it's lonely sounding, so it might be just a piano vocal or just guitar and vocal. So you kind of think of the concept and build the song around the instrumental, and you build the song around the lyric or the concept. I mean, it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it happens the other way. Sometimes you come up with what we call a riff or like a chord progression, and that inspires like a mood, like it's something that sounds like it has a good groove or a good feel, or it feels really upbeat. We often do what's just called, freestyle singing, or if we have a groove, we're just looping it and we're trying to layer a vocal idea on top of that. But it could come from anywhere, it could literally come from, what the singer thought of an idea when he's driving his car on the way to the studio, and we use that as a starting point. So yeah, literally it could come from anywhere and often does. And sometimes sometimes they're good ideas and sometimes they're not, you know. We take the good and the bad and we make the best of it either way.
Find the inspiration everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Try to.
Jamie Leth, are you ready for your first question? Awesome. Take it away.
What makes a good song?
What makes a good song? I think that's up to the listener to decide, but to me, a good song is a song that does a number of things. It conveys an emotion, and that emotion could be anything. It could be, like we just said, it could be, if it's a sad kind of song, it conveys that emotion really clearly, and and it's palpable, you know. If it's like an upbeat song, it makes you want to dance, maybe. If it's a thought-provoking song with a lyric or an idea that is very maybe serious or inspirational, or you know, I think that could be a great song. I mean, it's different song. I mean, the beauty of music is it's infinite, and writers have different strengths. Some are really amazing singers, and some are really amazing lyricists, and some are really amazing keyboard players, and some singers aren't even necessarily great singers, but they have a quality to their voice that is interesting, and like Johnny Cash, or I mean, there's a number of artists who don't necessarily have the greatest singing voice, but they are able to convey an idea or an emotion with conviction. I think the best artists are artists that are genuine, that they come from a place that is maybe not necessarily unique to themselves, but they have a way of conveying authenticity in their music, and it just feels very real, you know, and it hits hard in the right way. So to me, that's what makes a good song. A song that conveys emotion and an idea and inspires me to think about something or move in a certain way or changes my mood. I mean, that's just a few things that come to mind.
That's what music's for, right? Changing your mood,
Yeah.
taking you to a different place.
Mhm.
Speaking of a different place, you got your next question, Jamie Leth?
What's your favorite way to spend a day off?
Lately I've been getting to this, like, my friend has these like electric skateboards, and they're calling dad boards, and it's almost like Back to the Future, you know, part 2, when they're on those hoverboards. It's just like a remote control, and we just like zoom all over the city. That's been fun. I've always enjoyed skateboarding. I enjoy spending time with my family and doing stuff that is not music related, like taking a vacation. We went to Big Sur last year. It was awesome. Went to Yosemite. I love going to Hawaii. So taking vacations is really nice. I mean, pre-pandemic, it was like going to the movies, going to dinner with my wife. Hopefully we'll get back to that soon. Yeah, just spending time with family, seeing my mom or my brother or my sister, or spending time with the Linda Lindas.
Yeah. Awesome. Jamie Leth, you got your next one?
Are you more of an introvert or an extrovert?
I think I could kind of like turn it on when I have to, but I think at heart I've always been a little bit more of an introvert. I'm always kind of just like, I've always sat at the back of the class, didn't really say much, just kind of assessing. And I think part of the music scene that I came up in was in high school. I got really into like punk rock music and was a bit of an outcast. I had just a few friends, and we were kind of like definitely not the cool kids at school. We were just like, well, maybe we were, but we were just like kind of doing our own thing. And I was really into skateboarding, and yeah, just kind of to ourselves a bit, you know. And so that led to, I think, hand in hand with that is just a vibe that was more yeah, a little bit more quiet and not as engaged, you know. But later in life, you know, as I got older and started playing music, it opened so many doors in terms of meeting people and having experiences through music. And now I'm, you know, sometimes I'm with a different artist every day of the week, and I can't, I have to turn it on. I can't have a bad day. I can't just be quiet in the corner when an artist is staring at me in the face. So um, you have to make magic happen at every opportunity. So yeah, I would say I'm a little bit of both, but more leaning towards introvert.
What do you like and dislike about being a music producer?
I love what I do. It's awesome. It's a little, I think anyone who works a job that is freelance, which is essentially what I do. Freelance means you kind of have to create the work through your own network of friends, or people seek you out, or in other words, I don't have a job that is like a 9 to 5 where I go in and I clock in and I clock out, and you know, the work is pretty much there and until I decide I want to leave that job. My job is like project based. I will work on a song or a handful of songs or an entire record, and when that project is done, I have to find another project to do, you know. And sometimes it could be there's some downtime between projects. Sometimes I'm really struggling to finish, so to meet my deadline, so I could start the other project and not have them overlap, and that can be anxiety inducing, you know. So I would say the I really love what I do. I love that it's creative. I love that it's also, there's a technical aspect to it. There's a creative aspect to it. I love by and large, most of the musicians I work with are really amazing and inspiring. But there is an anxiety element to it of like, I have to fill up the month of May with a project, or I won't work that month, you know? So that's always a challenge, having downtime. I've been lucky that I haven't had that much downtime. There seems to be always something. I work, like I said, I work 7 days a week, but you know, it is not without its challenges still.
It's tough being your own boss, right?
Yeah. Finding motivation sometimes can be tricky too.
Yeah. And coiling cables isn't always that fun either.
Must be.
What'd you say, Christian?
Is it tiring?
It can be, yeah. Especially if you're trying to make a deadline, or you have to work really long hours to meet that deadline. And it can be tiring, and not in the way that you think. Sometimes creativity is not an endless well. Sometimes it's hard to continually stay creative and bring ideas and bring a perspective. You know, it's that can in its own way be mentally tiring as well as physically tiring. You know, so that's a challenge, as to how do you consistently bring your A game and bring great ideas to the table. It can be definitely be tiring in that sense. And it's, you know, it's tricky. Again, it's a tricky balance of taking the right projects and working with the right people who also bring a great set of ideas, and hopefully we can collaborate and make something great together.
During these kind of scary and dangerous times, we have kids asking adults what to do. And I want to know, and I think a lot of the kids might want to know, how can adults listen to and empower children to have their voices heard when everybody's not sure what's going on?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I think as adults, we always have to do our best to, you know, it's sometimes adults feel like children, they don't, you know, they don't have as much experience as we do as adults, and maybe their opinions or ideas are not as valid for some reason. But I think it's just as easy as always talking to your child and asking them what's going on, if there's any kind of underlying fears or anxieties they might have about these times, and how to best deal with them, and give them maybe play through some mental exercises like, if you ever encounter this kind of situation, this is what you should do. And yeah, because these are unprecedented times. It's really sad, and it's really frustrating as a parent of multiracial children, and I'm sure everyone at Castellar feels the same way, and hopefully everyone should feel the same way. It's just unprecedented times where we have to really consider the safety of our friends and family in certain situations that may have once been okay, or certain places that we would have gone to and not really given a second thought. We now have to give a hard think about, is that going to be a safe space for my child, or for my wife, So I do believe that eventually we're going to be in a place where these things matter less and less. Like I said, I am a child of multiracial children. I see multiracial couples more than I ever have. Maybe it's just a product of living in Southern California, but I feel like it's inevitable that racism is going to continually, the trajectory should be less and less as people become more mixed and more accepting of other cultures. But it is going to take time. And unfortunately, this is like a really a rough and alarming time that we're living in right now.
Yeah, I hope we all can work together. Eloise, did you have a question?
Also, the music can help us feel better too.
That's right.
That's a good point, Eloise. Sometimes it helps to take things like what's happening now and use them as fuel for a creative idea, whether it be a song or a piece of art or anything. It could be an essay, it could be a story. Whenever you feel passionate about a cause or an injustice, that's one of the best fuels for creative fire. And I encourage all of you to try to harness that fire.
If you want your voice heard, you gotta sing it loud, right?
Yes, indeed.
Carlos, how has the music industry changed since you started? Specifically, how do you think it could change to help women have equal opportunities both in the spotlight and behind the scenes?
The industry has changed a lot. Probably the single biggest thing that has changed is the advent of streaming versus physical sales of the medium. So when I was coming up, and up until about 10 years ago, the 10 or I don't know, maybe now 12, 13 years ago, the way that people consume music was by listening on a physical medium like a CD, which was the dominant form, or a record or a cassette tape. And now music is largely consumed via streaming services, and like TikTok and Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube. And that has really upended the music industry, but it's actually in a really good place and heading in a really good direction now. The projected growth for streaming income is going to be through the roof in the next 5 to 10 years. And so budgets for people who create music are going to, I would think, increase like steps. So we'll see what happens there. And then I would say in the last 5 years, we've seen this dramatic shift with regards to empowering females in the music industry, especially behind the glass, meaning on the producer, engineering, and mixing side. There have always been female singers and songwriters and performers, but I think there's more outlets than ever, and more organizations and empowerment outlets for women to take advantage of any and all of the available spots for music creation, whether it's a songwriter, a singer, or one of the more technical aspects like engineer, producer, mixer. Yeah, I try to hire as many females as I can on all of my projects, and predominantly I've worked with female fronted bands. Paramore, Cherry Glazer, Best Coast, Wolf Alice,
Linda Lindas.
And yeah, and I do feel like strongly that as a father of 2 girls who are in a band, I'm so proud of them that they are able to demonstrate. And all female bands are really you don't really see that many of them anymore. There's only one that comes to mind, the band Haim, and besides them, there's not too many all female bands who are making waves in the music world. So I encourage them, and I try to teach all of the girls in the band, you know, as much as I can to empower them and to enable them to create music. And we're lucky that they've had some great opportunities come their way.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is from Selena.
Okay.
Can you share some projects that you are currently working on?
Yeah, so right now I am working with a band called the Cold War Kids. They're an alternative rock band. They had a hit song a few years back, a song called First. It was the #1 song on alternative radio. And I'm currently writing songs with them and producing a new record with them. And I'm also working with an artist named Albert Hammond Jr., who's is in a band called The Strokes, and he's a guitar player. And I'm tracking vocals for his record here. And then I'm mixing projects for this artist Cassidy Pope. She won The Voice a few years back. And what else am I doing? And I'm also mixing songs for this artist called Elephant Castle, who's like he's like a singer-songwriter producer who was in a band called Foster the People. So yeah, between those projects, I have a pretty full plate right now.
Cool. I think Amber's got one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there anyone that you want to work with but haven't had the chance to yet?
Oh yeah, there's a lot. I'd love to work with the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. I would love, or Karen O. I would love to work with. There's a band called White Reaper who I might work with, and I really want to work with them. I'd like to do something like outside of my comfort zone. It'd be cool to work on something like Anderson .Paak and the Free Nationals, or Kendrick Lamar would be amazing. Fiona Apple, I love her. I'd work with her. Those are the ones that come to mind. I've been lucky. I've worked with the artists that are generally I wanted to work with for a long time, and like Best Coast and Paramore and Wolf Alice. I've had great experiences working with them. So checked a few boxes off my bucket list already.
Very cool. So we have some questions from the chat. Let's see here. This is from another fellow music teacher. When you were a child, did you have a specific musical experience that inspired you to become a musician or producer? Like a specific moment.
Yeah. I remember being at my neighbor's house and watching her play. She had a piano and she was playing like a riff that went like this. It's like a little rock and roll thing, you know? And it was called, there's a name for it. It was called like Boogie Woogie something or other. And I remember thought that riff was so cool and I wanted to learn how to play it. And that's what inspired me to want to take piano lessons. And then in terms of producer, yes, there were a bunch of big aha moments where I really wanted to find out more about how to produce. Probably the main one was when I was playing in a band. We recorded at this fancy studio in town here in Hollywood called Sunset Sound, which is a legendary studio like Led Zeppelin and The Doors and the Rolling Stones and Prince all recorded there. And the first time I recorded in that room and saw the grandeur of like a legendary studio, I just wanted to try to work there as much as I could on as many. I just wanted to never leave, you know. So that was a big moment for me the first time I worked at Sunset Sound.
It's cool being in the place where all these famous things have happened. You're standing in the same spot.
Yes, and then
feels
you hear
really cool
from the people who work at the studio about the way Prince was when he made Purple Rain, or like a story about him hiding in the bushes one time because he didn't want to talk to one of the assistants. So those kind of stories are always fun to hear, and it kind of, in some ways, it brings some of these legends back down to earth. They're just people at the end of the day, but it's also inspiring just to be in a place where they created such important music to me.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions I saw. Some of them were answered during the interview.
Oh.
Does anybody, any of the hosts have any questions? Amber, Christian, Eloise, Jamileth?
I think you answered it, but I don't know. Who is your favorite celebrity?
Favorite celebrity? That's a good question. Well, my favorite celebrity is probably a musician, probably Prince. He's no longer with us, but he is my favorite musician and a person who did things that I don't think we will ever see in my lifetime. You know, in terms of he played every instrument extremely well. He was an amazing dancer. He wrote amazing songs. He acted in films. He was like an amazing performer live at his shows, which I was lucky enough to see. And he was like an enigma. You know, he had this very mysterious persona. He was really funny in interviews when he did give them, which was rare. And I just loved his records. So I would say Prince is probably my all-time favorite celebrity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we do actually have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, go
So,
ahead, Ms. Lou.
so a question in the chat is, if you can go back in time, what would you teach or tell yourself?
I probably, you know, when I was learning how to make music and starting to get into production and learning how it worked, it was a different time. You know, this is pre-internet, so there was little to no information as to how it all worked, you know. And I thought at the time, it just all seemed so very inaccessible to me. The idea that I could just like form a band, or even that seemed like not a very accessible concept, you know. I thought you have to be a rock star to make a band, you know, or making a record. I thought you had to be a rock star to make a record, you know. It wasn't until later that I realized, like, oh no, anyone could book a studio, or all you need are some instruments and some friends, and you could form a band. And to produce music, especially now, all you really need is like a laptop and a very basic MIDI controller and a couple programs, and you're off and running. So I wish I knew that a lot of these things were more accessible than I didn't find out till much later that they were. I wish I had taken advantage of some of the opportunities of maybe working in a studio earlier, or taking classes in learning how to record earlier, or even getting a degree in, you know, I got a degree in English literature from UCLA. And I did that because I felt like I wanted my degree to be in something that wasn't music, so I had something to kind of fall back on. But I kind of regret that, because I didn't really use my English degree for anything. But if I had majored in music, then I could have definitely found something in there that I could have used in my actual career. I mean, I guess there's something to be said for really focusing on something when you know what you want and going all in on that thing, as opposed to like maybe spreading yourself thin and just maybe playing it safe. So I wish I knew some of those things. I maybe would have made some different choices early on.
It sounds like there's a couple of themes, like don't stop yourself from really exploring and kind of just allowing your imagination to take root and just try things. Like, so don't stop yourself first. And then the second theme that I'm hearing from you is that sometimes you just, in your heart, you know what you should do or you want to do, but sometimes you're a little scared of it. And maybe just allowing yourself that freedom to really explore. And and it's okay to explore.
Yeah, follow the inner voice. You know, I think sometimes that might be a little scary, or sometimes, you know, you might have doubts about your ability to do any given thing. But why should you have doubts? You haven't even tried doing the thing yet, you know? So I would say put yourself out there, take a chance, and follow your inner voice and do something, especially if you are passionate about it. Like, some people say the key to life is finding out what you're passionate about, and then find out how to make money doing that thing, you know? I kind of back that motto. So
Great advice.
mhm.
Thank you.
I did see one more
Thank you.
question.
Oh,
I think
you
I
did?
think you could answer it fast. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you get annoyed by your own music?
Sorry.
Yeah.
We have a lot of kids here. We've been using a program called Soundtrap
Mhm.
online.
Cool.
And so all the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th graders have been making their own music. So it's a good question. Do you get annoyed with your own music, Carlos?
Yeah, because when you make a song, whether you're mixing a song or writing a song, sometimes it's looping for like a half hour, and by the end of the day, it's stuck in your head, and you just want some distance from it, but you can because it's stuck in your head, or you wake up the next morning and it's still there. It's hard to turn off music sometimes, and one of your strongest assets as a producer, as a music creator, is perspective. And that's not just music either. It's anything creative. I think it's the perspective to step back from the music and look at it anew and identify what is the strengths and the weaknesses of a given song. And if it's playing in your head constantly, it's hard to gain that perspective. So I would say I do get annoyed by my own music, and I wish there was a better way to get some distance from my own music, because perspective is very important to making music.
Kind of got to step back and listen,
Mm-hmm.
or give it a break and come back to it.
Listen, do something else, listen to something else, or watch something else, or go for a walk or something that really can take your mind away from the music.
Awesome. Well, thank you. You hear that, boys and girls? Don't be on Soundtrap 24 hours a day. You need to take a break.
I'm on my piano 24 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
Do you get annoyed, Amber?
Yes. I'm even annoyed by my own voice sometimes.
And we're looking at ourselves all the time. Eloise, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to loop back to what Mr. B was asking about, these difficult times. I think actually Mila has a good example of how she dealt with a potentially traumatic situation at school, right? What did you and Eloise do? You want to tell us about it?
Well, should I tell the story about what happened or just what we did?
Yeah, tell the whole story.
Okay. So at school one day, like about a week or so before we went home to do school online, someone in my class came up to me and said that his dad told him to stay away from Chinese people because of the virus. And then after I told him I was Chinese, he backed away from me. And then after I told my family, Eloise and I wrote a song about it called Idiotic Boy. It's not out yet, but I'm here. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, that's an example of using something negative and trying to turn it into something, well, not necessarily positive, but using it to fuel an idea or a song, and maybe someone will hear that song and be inspired, or will rethink. Maybe this idiotic boy will rethink his actions or what he said and did, or maybe they'll inspire another young artist to make a song like that if something similar had to happen to them. So that's a great power of music. At its best, it is inspiring and fuels people to want to create ideas and inspire other people as well.
It's also a great way to channel your emotions and your feelings. Like if you're really mad, don't hurt anybody, put it in a song. Exactly. Then it can last forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've reached the end here. Miss Mai, did you want to have some ending comments?
Well, usually I talk about the importance of music and education through music, but I think we've had an hour-long PSA on the importance of music. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Mila, Lucia.
Thanks, guys.
Eloise, Jamila, Christian, Amber, Selena, Mr. B, Martin, Wendy, Principal Lou, all of y'all asking questions. I see you. Thank you. I have to say, Carlos, I think you might have broken the record for the most participation by students in questions like ever. So that is amazing. Thank you. So as we can see, oh yes, another award for you. But music has been really nice. Mr. B, you have been a light and a beacon of light to our kids during this transitional time. I know that when it's 12:30, it's like, woo, where I am, where it's Mr. B o'clock. So, we want to keep this going, parents. And please, if you can, donate to us, facescastler.org. We have PayPal there. And, if not, it's okay. Just spread the word. Encourage your children to play music. Keep speaking to our babies. See how they're doing. Check in on them. It's okay if it's scary. I'm scared too. We're all going to get through this together. We love you so much, Castellar. We love our teachers, our faculty, our parents, all you kids. Stay strong. Stay safe. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
This is fun.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
weekend.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
B.
you. Thank you, Christian.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Imagine the world has gone insane, and nothing we know has stayed the same. So everything else besides us has changed. But that's not what is in our fate, and it won't always be that way. 'Cause if tomorrow's like today, should we just wish for yesterday? For worse or for better, I put myself back together. I know nothing lasts forever, but never say never. Imagine a place where there is no sky, nowhere to dream and nowhere to fly, and only someone to just say goodbye. But that's not what is in our fate, and it won't always be that way. 'Cause if tomorrow's like today, should we just wish for yesterday? For worse or for better, I put myself back together. I know nothing lasts forever, but never say never. For worse or for better, I put myself back together. I know nothing lasts forever, but never say never. And now more than ever, it can only get better. They say nothing lasts forever, but never say never.
Awesome. Another successful one. High five.